A very good evening. We are coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studios right here in Colombo with prime time news live on Newsfirst. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
And I'm Zamal Ratnayaka. Let's start off with a look at headlines.
New ministers appointed. New Prime Minister assumes duties. Former Minister Arjuna Ranatunga, who was arrested, released on bail. CPC strike called off. President says he will look into the possibility of holding provincial council elections as soon as possible. Ranil Wickremesinghe says he is still the Prime Minister of the country.
And good evening. Continuing the Team News First coverage of the constitutional crisis in Sri Lanka, we have the latest news, as we have done throughout the day. And Team News First has covered the events, and the most recent event, of course, is the appointment of various cabinet ministers by President Maithripala Sirisena. Prime Minister has been announced already, as we know. The former President, Mahinda Rajapakse, was appointed as the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs in addition to his role as the Prime Minister. Minister Nimal Siripala de Silva has been appointed as the new Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation. Dr. Sanath Amunugama has been appointed as the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Mahinda Samarasinghe has been appointed as the Minister of Ports and Shipping. Mahinda Amaravira has been appointed as the Minister of Agriculture. Ranjit Siembalapitiya has been appointed as the Minister of Power and Renewable Energy. And Wijayadasa Rajapakse, formerly from the United National Party, has done a crossover and has now decided to support President Sirisena and has been appointed as the new, I do beg your pardon, as the new Minister of Education and Higher Education. And Vijayamuni Soiza has been appointed as the Minister of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Development and Rural Economic Development. Minister Faiza Mustafa has retained his position as the Minister of Provincial Councils, Local Government and Sports and been reappointed to those positions. Douglas Devananda has been appointed as the Minister of Resettlement, Rehabilitation, Northern Development and Hindu Religious Affairs. Arumugam Tondaman has been appointed as the new Minister of Hill Country, New Villages, Infrastructure and Community Development. And another crossover from the United National Party, Vasanta Senanayake, who crossed over leaving his heritage behind at the United National Party, has been appointed as the new Minister of Tourism and Wildlife. And Vadivel Suresh, another crossover from the United National Party, has been appointed as the new State Minister of Plantation Industries. And at 14th position, Ananda Alutgamage, also from the United National Party, has been appointed as the new Deputy Minister of Tourism and Wildlife. That was the latest on the constitutional crisis, the latest appointments that took place today. That was the footage of President Maithripala Sirisena and the new Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapakse engaging in religious activities today. The President then joined the National VAP Festival.
The National VAP Festival took place this morning at the Sandagirigoda Paddy Field in Thessamaharama under the auspices of the President. The president also distributed paddy and fruits among the farmers. The Mahasangha, other religious leaders, Chamal Rajapakse, Minister Mahinda Amaravira, Shan Vijayalal de Silva, Angajan Ramanathan, Khadim Astan and several other dignitaries attended the event.
ඔබට අද සතුරු දවසක් මටත් සතුරු දවසක් අද ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂය එක තැනකට ලං වෙමින් තියෙනවා.
It is a happy day for both you and me and the SLFP. Today the SLFP is in one place. The president is a people's leader. The prime minister is a leader who is always thinking and has contributed greatly to the end of the 30-year conflict that allowed us all to live freely. I can say without any doubt that the coming together of these leaders will ensure that we will be self-sufficient in food. The president asked me to make a decision on the alliance. We decided weeks ago that this government is not right for the country. When the president asked for the letter of withdrawal, it was a letter I signed very happily. No matter who may talk, there will be no governments and no other prime ministers. The president has the complete right as per the constitution to appoint the prime minister. I can say with confidence that this prime minister has the support of some 120 MPs. The president has given his blessing for this too.
ගානකට එහා ගිය බලයක් සහිත අග්‍රාමාත්‍යවරයෙක් තමයි මේ රටේ පත් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒ සඳහා ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ ආශිර්වාදය ලැබුණා.
අපි රටක් විදිහට අද මුහුණ දෙන ආර්ථිකයේ
One of the biggest economic challenges we face is the importing of food. One thing is that things like the drought affects us. On the other hand, we followed every trend in the global sphere. Some of these didn't work for us and destroyed our identity. We appointed Mahinda Rajapakse as the Prime Minister of the new government. And Minister Mahinda Amaravira, I realized that the announcer stated that he is the former Minister of Agriculture. But I'd like to say he is the current one as well. This is a blessed land where a plant can be grown at any place, and we must make an economic plan based on this. Under this government, as a step to ensure democracy, we will speak to the Elections Commission today or tomorrow to have provincial council elections as soon as possible. Today, the officials in 6 provincial councils are lost. They don't have a political leader to guide them. There are certain limitations within which the officials can work, but a leader is necessary when one wants to make people-friendly decisions that go against circulars. If these things get obstructed, it must be changed. So, we must have provincial council elections as early as possible.
ඒ නිසා අපි විශේෂයෙන්ම පළාත් සභා මැතිවරණ හැකි පමණ ඉක්මනින් පවත්වනවා.
The president also expressed his views on the people of the north and the east.
මම අද දකුණේ ඉඳගෙන
Sitting in the south, I must say that in the last 3 years, we were unable to provide solutions to the people of the north. Starting in 2015, for nearly 4 years, we only spoke of building houses in the north. The authorities didn't even make these houses. The problem is not whether it is the south or the north. We know that the only way of developing a progressive society is by treating people with trust, respect and love. We have appointed Mahinda Rajapakse as the Prime Minister, and I ask that all priests, government officials and citizens, that through friendship and harmony that we come together and build this country. No harm should come to any government institution or asset because of a change in the government. Even if a pin is damaged, that loss is borne by the purse of the public.
අල්පෙනිත්තක් විනාශ කළොත් ඒ අල්පෙනිත්ත තුලත් ජනතාවගේ සාක්කුවටයි ඒ බර දැනෙන්නේ.
Continuing with Team News First's coverage of the constitutional crisis and we have endeavored to cover all the different angles. Today, the leader of the United National Party, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, expressed the following views to the media at Temple Trees.
President Maithripala Sirisena addressed the nation and levelled a few allegations against me and the cabinet. I refute all those allegations. We all know that the powers of the president of this country were curtailed under the 19th Amendment of the Constitution. According to Article 42(4) of the Constitution, the Member of Parliament who commands the confidence of the House should be appointed as the Prime Minister. Accordingly, I wish to express my regret to President Maithripala Sirisena, declaring that he nominated the Prime Minister who has no command of the majority of the House. The solution for this unfortunate situation prevailing in this country lies with the Parliament. The Speaker, by a letter, has informed the President that the prorogation of Parliament is against the traditions. Today, all political parties and civil society are requesting to summon the Parliament immediately. The international community has informed to act within the available legal framework and the Constitution. I earnestly request the Speaker to summon the Parliament immediately. This unfortunate situation is adversely affecting the future of this country and the future of our children. I would like to clearly state that the United National Party, all the other parties belonging to the United National Front, and all other political parties represented in the Parliament are standing firm to re-establish democracy in this country. We will never allow an anti-constitutional dictatorship to rule this country. Not only people of this small island, the rest of the world is with us at this moment. I finally request all of you to forget political differences and rally around us to re-establish democracy in this country in order to ensure a better future for our younger generations.
And international attention to the goings-on in Sri Lanka has attracted attention. The United States State Department spokesperson Heather Nauert said that the United States continues to follow developments in Sri Lanka with concern.
In a statement, the US urged all sides to refrain from intimidation and violence. The US called on the president, in consultation with the speaker, to immediately reconvene parliament and allow the democratically elected representatives of the Sri Lankan people to fulfill their responsibility to affirm who will lead their government. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has expressed great concern over Sri Lanka's deepening political crisis and called on the country's government to respect democratic values and constitutional provisions and process. Secretary General spokesman Stefan Dujarric said the UN chief had called to uphold the rule of law and ensure the safety and security of all Sri Lankans. Guterres urged all parties to exercise restraint and address the unfolding situation in a peaceful manner. The Commonwealth Secretary General Patricia Scotland has noted the unfolding political developments in Sri Lanka. She encourages the political leadership and national institutions of the country to uphold the rule of law and comply with Sri Lanka's constitutional framework in resolving the current challenges. She further urges respect for and protection of fundamental rights and freedoms, including freedom of the media. She calls for all to exercise restraint. In a statement, Canadian High Commissioner David McKinnon stated, quote-unquote, Canada is very concerned for the recent events in Sri Lanka, adding respect for the rule of law is a cornerstone of democracy. He urged all parties to uphold Sri Lanka's constitution and refrain from violence, noting the government of Sri Lanka needs to take concrete steps to meet its commitments to its own people and the international community with respect to accountability, transitional justice and ending impunity.
And adding another dimension to the constitutional crisis that is going on in Sri Lanka, the Socialist People's Front, a collective of the UPFA aligned left-wing parties, convened a media briefing in Colombo today.
The
Prime Minister, who was appointed with the intervention of the President, has been removed and a new Prime Minister has been appointed. This appointment must now be ratified by Parliament. If it is not ratified, then the new Prime Minister and new government cannot be sustained. The vote for account will be taken up on the 16th, and the decision following this vote will either confirm the government or end the government. Legal analysts have already explained very well the fact that there is no unconstitutional action or illegal action in this case. Next, what is our Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, shouting about now? He says that he will remain or go based on the wishes of the Parliament. So we must wait until Parliament is convened. So why are they waiting until the 16th to convene Parliament? The seats must be reallocated now according to government and opposition members. The vote for account must be prepared to approve the government's expenditure for the next 3 months. The cabinet and secretaries must be appointed. We need about 10 days to complete this work. This is the extra 10 days that we have taken, otherwise Parliament would have convened on the 6th. Therefore, I believe that our Prime Minister is shouting now because of the pain of losing power. Shouting about how he is the Prime Minister after losing the position of Prime Minister is an insult to his knowledge and experience. He thought that by claiming to be the Prime Minister, even after being sacked, would create a major controversy in the country and that the people would rally together and say that he is the Prime Minister. But none of this happened.
And to satiate the interest of foreign journalists in Sri Lanka, the former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe spoke to international journalists and expressed his views.
He can't say the Constitution, Article 46 is very, very clear. Parliament's power overrides that of the President. There is nothing in the Constitution which says the President can override the Parliament or exercise legislative power. It's not confident. As far as the ministers are concerned, the number of ministers have gone up from 30 to 40 by resolution of Parliament. So it's up for the Parliament to look at it and decide whether they want to continue with that resolution. There were 3 parties, UNP, UPFA and SLNC. Either go with that or otherwise decide no. that it must come down to 30. So that
Meanwhile, it was also reported that a letter signed by 126 members of parliament was handed over to the Speaker of Parliament. The MPs have called on the Speaker to immediately reconvene Parliament to solve the political crisis which is consistent with the constitution of the country.
And several members of the United National Party expressed their views relating to the country's prevalent political atmosphere during media briefings held at Temple Trees today. According to the MPs, a protest will be held in Colombo tomorrow to voice their objections over the current political decisions being made.
We fight today not only to protect the position of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and the UNP, but to protect democracy in Sri Lanka and to protect the law and media freedom. We need to raise our voice in Colombo tomorrow to resolve this issue according to the Constitution. We call upon all UNP supporters and the 6.3 million people who voted for the government of the good governance in 2015 to join with us tomorrow. They are clearly aware that they do not have majority in Parliament. As per the Constitution, the Prime Minister cannot continue without holding a majority in Parliament. So they are now attempting to postpone parliamentary sessions as much as possible and create havoc in government institutions by using their powers and group of thugs. Their previous secret, the white van culture, will now come into effect. If this issue is not resolved in Parliament within the next few days, it is the public who will have to pay the price. There is a price for everything. As members of Parliament, everyone must realize that our country is a member of the international market. Did anyone think of this before such decisions were made? Do not forget that it is the people who will have to pay the price. It's enough. I seek forgiveness from the UNP for bringing in the President. However, tomorrow we must succeed in this endeavour as a respect to the democracy we brought in. When it comes to politics, Mahinda Rajapakse is not a baby. He is aware that he does not have a majority in Parliament. If Mahinda Rajapakse is such a brave leader, let us meet tomorrow at 8 AM in Parliament and let's see who the Prime Minister is. Because I was appointed to the post of Minister by the President through an official letter. I have not received any letter so far informing my removal from the ministerial position. While press briefings were held at Temple Trees, another group addressed the public. The Temple Trees is the strength of our protest. This place was not open to all of us in the past. We will be strong when things like this happen. These are good lessons for our leaders as well. Your value is understood by the leadership of the party. This will give us strength to form a UNP government. By 12 noon tomorrow, gather at Kolpiti Junction. We will show our people, we will do what Mahinda Rajapakse couldn't do all this time. We will bring the people and we will win not only the fight within Parliament, but we will win the fight on the streets as well.
Maintaining the current political momentum in Sri Lanka today, former President Mahinda Rajapakse assumed duties as the 22nd Prime Minister of Sri Lanka at the Prime Minister's office in Flower Road today.
The new Premier assumed duties while receiving blessings of Mahasangha and religious leaders of all religions. Mahinda Rajapakse assumed duties following religious observances.
අද දවසේ ඔබතුමාට තියෙන එකම එක ගිවිසුමයි. ඒ ගිවිසුම ජනතාව සමග තියෙන ගිවිසුම විතරයි. ඔබතුමාට දේශපාලකයන් සමග හෝ කිසියම් කල්ලි කණ්ඩායම් සමග හෝ ඩයස්පෝරා සමග හෝ ගිවිසුම් නැහැ. සංස්කෘතිය කෙරෙහි එතුමන් තුල තිබුණ පුරුද්ද, ඒ වගේම එතුමන් තුල තිබුණ ගෞරවය, එතුමන් තුල තිබුණ
Several UPFA MPs, chief ministers and several other dignitaries graced the occasion. Later, the Prime Minister held a discussion with UPFA MPs and greeted the supporters who were gathered at office premises.
And the Speaker, Mr. Khaleda Zia, called on the chief prelates of the Malwatu and Asgiri chapters today.
Speaker Khaleda Zia called on the chief prelate of the Malwatu chapter, Most Venerable Tibbatuave Sri Sumangala Thera, and spoke about the current I sent a notice to the President about the new appointments and the prorogation of Parliament. I don't have any problem with it. But when the Parliament is not convened for 20 days, we might witness unrest situations in the country. Therefore, convene the Parliament in a few days, and I believe the Parliament will give blessings to the party that will obtain power. Speaker Khaleda Zia also called on the Chief Prelate of the Askiri chapter, Most Venerable Varakagoda Sri Gnanaratana Thera. President can convene in 3 days. He can convene within this week. If we take a decision, we must give 3 days. We can convene on Thursday. Then all the problems can be sorted within this week. From next week, we can return to normalcy. Speaker also called on the Anunayaka of the Askiri chapter, Venerable Vendarwe Upali Thera. I requested the President to act immediately and convene the Parliament. Then both parties said that they have the required numbers of votes, so we can present it to the Parliament and elect a candidate legally. I have no problem with proroguing the Parliament or appointing anyone based on the Constitution. My responsibility here is to resolve the issue without delaying it.
With several media briefings keeping all members of the media busy, the chairman of the Elections Commission too had his own press briefing, and Mahinda Deshapriya convened such a briefing today.
We have said
that the postponement of provincial councils is in violation of the sovereignty of the people, governance, franchise, democracy and the concept of devolution of power under the 13th Amendment. We are thankful that this was highlighted by political parties. We informed the political parties of this in writing on the 22nd. The points raised in our letter were stern, but the language was soft. This is what we said. To the leaders of all political parties represented in Parliament, secretaries and permanent representatives, the violation of the people's sovereignty as a result of the governance of 6 provincial councils falling under the honourable governors and public officials with no public representatives due to the delay in holding elections. We hope that your attention will be drawn to this matter with expediency, since this was also discussed extensively during the meeting of party secretaries and representatives on the 11th of October 2018. In the next paragraphs we have said this: I kindly request you to remove legal obstacles to holding the elections without delay. This is how we reiterated it. I wish to highlight with the utmost respect for the supreme legislative power vested in all members of Parliament that this is a duty and responsibility conferred on all honourable members of Parliament represented in Parliament, the parties which they belong to, the honourable members and the parties belonging to the government, and especially all honourable members who work towards adopting the Provincial Councils Elections Amendment Act No. 17 of 2007 with a special majority. We have made a kind request using soft language. We have copied this letter to the party leaders, His Excellency the President, Honourable Ranil Wickremesinghe and the Honourable Mahinda Rajapakse too. This letter has also been referred to political parties who are not represented in Parliament but have power in the provincial councils. This is the 6th letter. We will not write letters to Parliament again. It is pointless.
Well, we now cross over to the Presidential Secretariat in Colombo, where we are having live visuals coming out of the ministers who are newly sworn in today, leaving the Presidential Secretariat in Colombo after taking oaths before His Excellency President Maithripala Sirisena. Now, as we reported earlier on in the bulletin, 11 ministers were sworn into the Cabinet of Ministers today, and also 1 state minister and a deputy minister was also appointed. I beg your pardon, 12 ministers were appointed today to the Cabinet of Ministers. The newly appointed ministers are seen leaving the premises of the Presidential Secretariat following their appointment. Faraz, you know, we have been following the developments here at Newsfirst following the constitutional crisis that unfolded on Friday. Nobody expected it. Now there's been a new Cabinet of Ministers that have sworn in. What do you think is going to happen, you know, in the next couple of hours in the country? What would you predict?
Well, I don't think that it's our place to make predictions, but in fact, it is the duty of the independent media to report and to report the news to the people. But rest assured, Maina, that whatever happens, you can trust on Team News First to cover those events and put it out as soon as possible and to explain the news as and when it happens.
Welcome back to the news. Former Minister Arjuna Ranatunga, who was taken into custody over an incident that transpired at the CPC, was released on bail today.
According to police media spokesperson SP Ruwan Gunasekara, former Minister Arjuna Ranatunga surrendered to the Colombo Crimes Division and was subsequently taken into custody. The former minister was produced before courts and thereafter released on bail.
I will hold a media conference and further clarify this matter. I was called to the police and thereafter produced before courts. I believe that the courts will take the right decision. We can identify those responsible for this in the future.
Meanwhile, the former minister's security officer, who was taken into custody last month, will be remanded until the 12th of next month upon the orders given by Colombo Additional Magistrate Priyantha Liyanage.
Meanwhile, in more local news, the strike action launched this morning by petroleum trade unions has been called off.
We decided to call off the strike action. We will also take immediate steps to restore fuel in the country. The distribution of fuel was halted due to the strike action. Long queues were seen at the filling stations since last night.
Well, the photos that you witnessed were taken in 2013. Now, Bangladesh's former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia was sentenced to another 7 years in jail over a corruption case.
73-year-old Zia, who is already serving a jail term after being convicted in another case-related embezzlement of funds of an orphanage named after her husband, President Zia Rahman, in February, was sentenced along with 3 others. The latest sentence is related to the Zia Charitable Trust, where the former Prime Minister and 3 others had abused power to raise funds. Earlier in the day, Bangladesh's Supreme Court cleared the way for a lower court to deliver its verdict in the case by rejecting Zia's plea to halt the proceedings. The Apex Court rejected a leave to appeal petition filed by Zia challenging the High Court judgment that allowed the lower court to continue trial in the graft case in her absence.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight. For a comprehensive detail of these stories and more, simply log on to our award-winning website www.newsfirst.lk. For the Newsfirst team, I am Zama Ratnayaka.
And I'm Mahina Bonzo. Take care and good night.